Night shift isn't part of the same world as the day. It pretends to be, but it isn't. During the day, places are distracted. Cars pass, birds move, people leave marks and noise behind. At night, all of that falls away, and what's left has room to notice you. That's what no one tells you before they hand you the keys. I took the job because I needed money and because the posting sounded easy. Remote security, minimal activity, overnight, no experience required. No mention of the land itself, just a vague address near Glastonbury Mountain. They never used the name people whisper. The supervisor met me at the end of the road where pavement turned to dirt. He didn't look surprised to see me, just tired, like he'd already seen how this went. He handed me the radio, the keys, and the logbook. "Don't fix anything," he said. "Don't follow anything, and don't stay outside longer than you have to." I asked him what people usually tried to fix. He didn't answer, just nodded toward the shack and drove away without looking back. The shack sat where the forest thickened into something heavier. Trees crowded in close, their trunks tall and straight, bark dark and slick like they were always damp. There was no clearing, just a small allowance in the trees, like the land had reluctantly stepped back to make room. The door stuck when I opened it. Metal scraping metal. Inside was cramped but clean. Desk, chair, monitors, a radio cradle bolted to the wall. No windows facing the road, only the forest. That felt deliberate. The air smelled old, not stale, occupied, like the room remembered breathing. I sat down and opened the logbook. At first it looked normal. Routine entries, patrol notes, weather remarks, names and signatures. Then patterns emerged. Some guards wrote more than others. Some stopped writing entirely after a certain point, entries growing shorter, more erratic. A few pages were nothing but repeated words, written over and over until the ink bled through. Quiet, 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 quiet. I found warnings written in the margins, small enough you'd miss them if you weren't looking. Don't answer twice. If it copies you, stop talking. The trees are closer than they look. Toward the middle of the book, whole sections had been removed, torn clean out. Toward the back, the handwriting began to stabilize again, neater, calmer, confident. Those entries disturbed me the most. I tried not to think about it. Night shift paranoia, stories people tell themselves when they're alone too long. Then the woods went quiet. Not gradually, not naturally. One moment there was distant movement, something rustling far off, and the next, nothing. The silence pressed against the shack like a held breath. I checked the cameras. Trees stood motionless. No wind, no sway. I had the uncomfortable thought that if I turned away from the monitors, something would move. Not on the screen, but in the space behind me. The radio crackled softly. I reached for it. Breathing came through. Slow, measured, familiar. I froze, holding the radio inches from my face. The breathing wasn't distorted. It wasn't static. It was too clear. I waited. After a moment, the breathing stopped. Then, softly, "You hear that too?" It sounded like me, if my voice had been flattened, rounded, smoothed of emotion. I set the radio down without answering. Outside, something walked, not around the shack, past it. Slow footsteps, moving with intent. They didn't crunch gravel. They pressed into soil. Bare feet. The footsteps stopped at the tree line. I waited for them to retreat. They didn't. A voice came from the darkness, low, conversational. "You're earlier than the last one." I stayed still, heart pounding so hard I worried it would give me away. "I remember you," the voice continued. "You read everything. You try to understand." A pause. That makes it harder. Something tapped the wall once, not knocking, testing. The radio clicked on by itself. Dispatch's voice filled the shack, smooth and rehearsed. "Everything's clear on our end?" I didn't respond. "You should do a walk," the voice said, "just to be safe." "What happens if I don't?" I asked. There was a delay, just long enough to feel wrong. Then my own voice answered back. "You wait." The smell of damp earth crept into the shack again, stronger this time. I looked down and saw dirt on the floor, fresh, dark, pressed in by bare skin. I hadn't opened the door. The logbook slid toward me. A new line appeared in slow, careful strokes. "You're doing well." The door unlocked. I slammed it shut and locked it again, my hands shaking so badly I dropped the keys. Outside, something leaned against the metal. Not pushing, not forcing. Resting. Listening. "You always try to stay inside," it said gently. "That's okay. You come out eventually." A child's voice began crying in the woods. Soft, broken, exhausted. The kind of crying that feels cruel to ignore. Every instinct in my body screamed to help, to move, to go toward the sound. Behind the crying, something else breathed, deep, content. "See?" the voice murmured. "You hear us now." The windows fogged from the outside, shapes pressed against the glass. Not hands, not faces. Just impressions. Like something trying to remember what people looked like. "You don't have to be afraid," it said. "You're already part of the routine." The lights flickered. For a split second, the camera showed the shack from the outside. I was visible through the window. Behind me stood something tall, leaning forward slightly. Its head tilted like it was studying how I fit together. The feed snapped back to trees. The door stood open. Cold air poured in, carrying the smell of wet leaves and rot. The forest seemed closer now, close enough that the darkness felt textured, layered. I stepped back, or forward. I'm not sure. I remember standing at the edge of the trees, my feet sinking into cold mud. I remember thinking how quiet it felt, how right. Something stood beside me. It smelled like my clothes. It sounded like my thoughts. "You stayed longer than most," it said kindly. "That means you're useful." I ran. The forest didn't let me leave. Paths folded back on themselves. The ground pulled at my legs. Every time I stopped, I heard my own footsteps stop behind me. Breathing. Waiting. When I fell, hands caught me. Careful. Almost gentle. "So many leave pieces behind," it whispered. "You can stay whole." Morning came like nothing had happened. They found the shack clean, logged, organized. The logbook was filled neatly. Handwriting calm, confident. The final entry read, "He left. I'm staying." They marked me missing. But night shift is still hiring, and sometimes, when the forest goes quiet and the radio crackles, you can hear a calm, patient voice explaining the rules to someone new. Because the woods don't want everyone, just someone willing to stay and watch.